Robert Kennedy's campaign for the presidency was the last act of a man who demanded change and who had himself changed out of all recognition. He began as Mr. Inside, worked for Senator Joseph McCarthy, came to oppose him, battled Teamsters President Jimmy Hoffa as counsel for the Senate Rackets Committee.
I mean, this is part of a pattern. Wasn't your candidate Mr. John O'Rourke?
Yes, sir.
He was the tough guy campaign manager when his brother John ran for president. He was a tough attorney general. But he was also a loving father.
How'd you get wet?
Because I ran in the swimming
You did.
He was the one with the shy smile, whose jokes were usually aimed at himself.
I asked my wife as I was coming down whether she could think of a joke. She said, if they look at the top of your head, they'll laugh.
And then his brother died, and Robert Kennedy became a deeper and more complicated man. Presidential historian Michael Beschloss.
I would draw a huge distinction between the Robert Kennedy before his brother's death in 1963 and the Robert Kennedy of the last 5 years of his life. Before 1963, Robert Kennedy was, I would say, mainly a political operative. Once you get past 1963, you see a Robert Kennedy who was much more committed than his brother, certainly much more liberal than his brother, and perhaps most importantly, much more ready to perhaps surrender the success of his political career in the service of larger aims.
Well, I first met Robert Kennedy 30 years ago.
Civil rights worker, now Georgia Congressman John Lewis.
You saw him growing, you saw him developing, and he was not the same man, he was not the same person, he was not the same human being after he toured Mississippi and saw hunger and poverty.
Do you know anything about the poverty program?
No.
You ever heard of Head Start?
No.
Nice to see you.
A theme ran through the speeches. One man can make a difference. People can change their society.
That some people see things as they are and say, why? I dream things that never were and say, why not?
I would never forget the night on April 4th, 1968, when we heard that Dr. King had been shot. And I was with him in Indianapolis, Indiana, when he stood on the back of an old car and spoke to an unbelievable crowd. And he spoke from the depth of his soul, from his heart.
For those of you who are black and are tempted to be filled with hatred and mistrust of the injustice of such an act against all white people, I would only say that I can also feel in my own heart the same kind of feeling. I had a member of my family killed, but he was killed by a white man. But we have to make an effort in the United States. We have to make an effort to understand, to get beyond or go beyond these rather difficult times.
Murder was all around that year. Cities burned, the campaign continued. One man could make a difference.
But if we look back upon the history of this country and the history of the world, we know the difference that an individual can make.
He was a fighter, and that's what I loved about him. If he believed in something, he would fight for it. You came away believing that this man would fight for you, that this man was on your side.
He won in California. He might have been president.
So, my thanks to all of you, and now it's on to Chicago, and let's win there.
Then he was murdered too.
We lost a sense of passion. We lost a sense of feeling. We lost a strong, determined political leader. We haven't had one since. And we may not be so blessed and so lucky to see another one like Bobby Kennedy.
It was a quarter of a century ago, but Robert Kennedy's death changed America in ways that still matter. President Clinton was a senior at Georgetown University then. His classmates are back in town for their 25th reunion, and we found some of them doing volunteer work, cleaning up a neighborhood park.
Between Martin Luther King and then Bob Kennedy, they were two tremendous leaders, very passionate, very committed. They made you feel that they could change the world, which is what our generation, we're the beginning of the baby boomers. We're the ones who were supposed to change the world, and it's kind of like he was the last one and they just took him too, and it just was devastating.
It was a very difficult year because our senior year had been disrupted.
We went to Spelman, a black women's college in Atlanta, and found the same sense of loss. Jane Smith works at the Martin Luther King Center now. Her class was graduated the week Robert Kennedy was shot.
And we were not out of mourning from Dr. King as of yet, and Bobby's assassination was the shock that said our whole world has changed. Nothing is the way it was in March of 1968, never to be again.
Veronica Biggins is a banker.
I think it is hopeful now, but not that same sense of optimism and hope that there was almost a great anticipation. I don't know anticipation of what, but just an anticipation of all that there would be.
I see people, some are not completely convinced yet, but I see people listening and watching and saying that change is possible once again. I see it.
But not through politics. Henrietta Turnquest, a lawyer and state legislator, won't even use the P word.
And I prefer to say that I am in public policy as opposed to being a politician.
Kennedy thought politics was an honorable trade. We don't today. Historian Michael Beschloss.
There is an assumption today that was not true in '68 that a political leader is basically guilty until proven innocent. That this is someone who is out for himself, cynical about the process, perhaps something of a manipulator, runs his career according to the polls. That's something that Robert Kennedy did not have to deal with in 1968. He probably would today.
My brother need not be idealized or enlarged in death beyond what he was in life. Be remembered simply as a good and decent man who saw wrong and tried to right it, saw suffering and tried to heal it, saw war and tried to stop it.
He left a legacy, but politics has soured since.
I really believe something died with Robert Kennedy. Something died in American politics, and maybe in the psyche of Americans, really. And we haven't been able to move from that point about 25 years ago.
When's the last time you tried Ovaltine?
I must have been 2 years old the first time I tasted Ovaltine. I've been drinking it ever since.
Just 2 glasses of classic Ovaltine and milk contain more than 10 essential